And then came down the second revelation. Allah waited another 7 years before He sent down the second revelation. Why this long wait? Because a people had to first have faith in their heart. Must first have a capacity to see more than these eyes and a degree from UWI to be able to understand the subject. Not all subjects can be understood only and solely in the light of reason. There are those subjects in which internal insight has to complement external observation. When the second revelation came down, we were already in Medina. And now Allah says, "La ta'kulu riba." Do not consume riba. Oh no, this is legislation. This is prohibition. Ad'afan muda'afa. The lady was a widow. She wanted to put up a little house. She borrowed $40,000. By the time she paid off the loan, she paid $160,000. It takes a whole generation to pay it. Ad'afan muda'afa. The interest on the loan exceeded the capital itself by 3 times. This is extortion. This is oppression. And so Allah teaches us one more dimension to the face of riba. It is not just taking and giving nothing in return. It's taking so much. But when the revelation came down, very strangely, it was enforced in a peculiar way. What was the strangeness? There was no retroactive enforcement of the legislation. Suppose the legislation come down Sunday morning, and Saturday night I lend money to you on interest, and you sign the agreement Saturday night. That agreement is still valid. This legislation that come down Sunday morning ain't going to affect that. But if I lend money to you on Monday, the day after the revelation came down, and you refuse to pay the interest to me, I can't take you to court. Because the court will declare that the agreement is invalid. So there was no retroactive enforcement of the legislation. I wonder why. I don't think there's any scholar in history who has written more beautifully on this particular subject of why no retroactive enforcement than a sheikh, an English sheikh. You know what I'm talking about? An English sheikh who wrote beautifully on the subject of riba. Who was he, Azan? An English sheikh. Shakespeare, correct? Shakespeare, correct. And what was the book? Merchant of Venice is correct. After attending this seminar, and reading this book, now go back and read Merchant of Venice another time. And only now, after studying what the Quran says, you could really appreciate the genius of William Shakespeare. Because what Allah is doing, by not offering any retroactive enforcement of the prohibition, is that He wants to, I don't know whether I should use this expression because I like to eat goat meat. He's trying to separate the sheep from the goats. You eat goat meat? He's trying to separate the sheep from the goats. When Allah has sent down revelation, condemning riba, prohibiting it, what He has to do in order to eliminate riba is that He has to corner the money lender. You have to corner him. And after you corner him, you have to marginalize him. And after you've marginalized him and he's lost the public relations battle, then you cut off his head. See the strategy? And so, you have to educate the people, let them understand. And that's what Shakespeare did. Antonio is a Christian. And in those days, the Christians still believed that it was haram to lend money on interest. Oh yes, the whole of Europe. And Antonio, he don't like Shylock at all. Shylock is the Jew who lending money on interest, and Antonio always talking against him. And Shylock say, I'm fed up with this man, I don't know what to do with this man. One day, Antonio go fix you up, you know. Until one day, Antonio's friend, Bassanio, who is about to get married to Portia, and Bassanio in a fix, he needs some money. And he turned to Antonio for help. And Antonio, in order to help his friend, he now does what he never wanted to do on his own. He went to Shylock for a loan. Shylock, see Antonio, come in, please. Come into my parlor, said the spider to the fly. So Antonio walked in. How much you want? Any amount, come on. What is the interest? Oh, no. This is a special kind of interest we go give you. The interest on this loan is if you don't pay back on time, I am entitled to a pound of your flesh. Now this is Shakespeare at his finest. A pound of your flesh. In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ saw a dream. And in that dream, it was not a pound of flesh, it was blood. It's not your flesh they're eating, it's your blood they're drinking. So they are blood suckers. Louis Farrakhan usually uses this language, but he does not understand the subject. But if Malcolm was alive, Malcolm would grasp this subject. So Antonio signed. Now Antonio have a number of ships, and the ships are on the ocean. So Antonio is afraid, I get in the money, I go pay him back. But a storm came, and all his ships were sunk. Again, this is Shakespeare at his finest. And when the ships were sunk, Antonio couldn't pay back. And when Antonio couldn't pay back, the case come to court before the Duke of Venice. And Bassanio now employs, she offered herself, his fiancée Portia, but she dressed up as a man and as a lawyer in a long gown, robe and so on. Nobody knew it was a woman. And she come to the court to fight the case. And when she stood up to fight the case, again we see Shakespeare with a tremendous grasp of the strategy in the Quran. That after the second revelation came down, Allah wants to appeal to the milk of human kindness. Appeal to the heart of the money lender. Have a heart, my man. Give it up. Because this is sucking the blood of the people. So that after you're able to separate the sheep from the goats and expression I'm not comfortable with because I like to eat goat meat. After you have separated the sheep from the goats, and you only have the moneylenders left now who will not give up, only then you move in for the kill. The society at large have understood that lending on interest is blood-sucking. So they dislike the moneylender. They hate him. So you've won the public relations battle. They know that. That's why they take pains to control public opinion. They control the television. They control the newspapers. They control radio. They control all channels of information to ensure that public relations can be brainwashed on their side. So Shakespeare puts Portia now to stand up and fight the case. And she, after having appealed to Shylock to give up the river, using legal arguments, she then turned from legal arguments to moral arguments. And we're telling the PNM in this country that the moral law is higher than any anti-terrorism legislation that you push to Parliament. That you force down the throats of these people in Parliament in a shameless way. The moral law is higher than any law you could pass in any Parliament. So Portia gives that famous speech, the quality of mercy, who knows?
The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as a gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. It is mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes a throne more better than his crown. The scepter shows the force of temporal power, the attributes of awe and majesty, wherein there sit the fear and dread of kings. But mercy is above thy scepter sway. It is enthroned in the hearts of God. It is an attribute itself. And I can't remember the rest.
God couldn't touch Shylock. Because Allah says there are some people who have eyes but they can't see. They have ears but they can't hear. They have hearts but they can't understand. They're just like cattle. Their hearts are dead. You could talk from now until thy kingdom coming and make no difference. It's like pouring water on the back of a duck. So this was Shylock. So when everything had failed, she said to Shylock, go ahead. Take your pound of flesh. So Shylock happy. I ain't want to call the name of Republic Bank. I may want to call the name of Clico. You have a knife. You ready? Come on. We want that house vacated. You didn't pay your mortgage. And when you get the house, you sell it a sweetheart deal. You have your people. And as he take the knife now and he's ready to take out a pound of flesh from Antonio. Shylock is the best here. Then Portia say, hold it. Wait. I have this agreement here, but he ain't saying nothing about blood. And the law of Venice is whoever spills one drop of Christian blood will have all his property confiscated. That's the law, eh? Shylock start to shake. The knife almost fall from your hand. How you go take the pound of flesh without spilling a drop of Christian, not just blood, Christian blood? And then Portia say, wait, something else may see in this agreement. The agreement say exactly 1 pound. So when you're cutting, you better make sure it is exactly 1 pound. Because if it is less or it is more, you're in violation of the agreement. The outcome was that the state confiscated all of Shylock's property. This is Shylock at his best. I mean, this is Shakespeare at his best. And this is the reason why to be able to understand the subject. Not all subjects can be understood only and solely in the light of reason. There are those subjects in which internal insight has to complement external observation. When the second revelation came down, we were already in Medina. And now Allah says, "La ta'kulu riba." Do not. More dimension to the face of riba. It is not just taking and giving nothing in return. It's taking so much. But when the revelation came down, very strangely, it was enforced in a peculiar way. And then came down the second revelation. Allah waited another 7 years before He sent down the second revelation. Why this long wait? Because a people had to first have faith in their heart. Must first have a capacity to see more than these eyes and a degree from UWI. Consume riba. Oh no, this is legislation. This is prohibition. Ad'afan muda'afa. The lady was a widow. She wanted to put up a little house. She borrowed $40,000. By the time she paid off the loan, she paid $160,000. It take a whole generation to pay it. Ad'afan muda'afa. The interest on the loan exceeded the capital itself by 3 times. This is extortion. This is oppression. And so Allah teaches us one more